Hello, you're watching ITV News Meridian.
Your headlines this Monday evening. The dealers using social media to push drugs online in the southeast. Two mothers who lost their sons when they took ecstasy demand that they're shut down.
Nikki and I know the potential price that they might pay, and the fact it is just people doing that for money.
The paralysed woman stuck on a plane at Gatwick for 90 minutes with no staff to help her off. Today, more flights cancelled and some passengers told to bring food and drink.
Also this Monday, honouring the valour of those who fought on D-Day. New memorials for a new generation.
And masked parades and bonfires at dusk. 70 years of the Liz we love and a bunting bank holiday to remember. Good evening. An alarming number of social media pages are publicly promoting the sale of drugs here in the southeast. An ITV Meridian investigation has discovered dozens of public accounts on sites like Instagram and Snapchat, as experts warn that more dealers are selling online.
Hundreds of under-18s have been suspected of selling drugs in the last 12 months, one child as young as 10 in Kent. In a moment, we'll hear what the social media sites are doing to tackle the problem. But first, here's James Dunham.
Dangerous, deadly, targeted at children, on sale over social media. In Brighton, Crawley, Canterbury, Dover, across the southeast, these are the images we discovered of what appears to be drugs being advertised by dealers promoting their products like pick and mix, cannabis, cocaine, marketed like sweets. Mums who suffered loss, experts, police, saying we all have a part to play in helping stop the dealers reaching young people.
They don't know what's in it, they don't know what they're getting.
It just makes it far too easy.
Nikki Parish and Fiona Spargo-Mabs both lost their sons to drugs. Nikki's son Billy, who was from Worthing, died when he was 24. Fiona's son Daniel, 16. Both took ecstasy. Nikki and Fiona now educate young people against using drugs in this digital age.
It's really scary, it's really frightening to think that our young children are being able to see these, and I can almost imagine, you know, at sort of 13 or 14, if there's a couple of them looking at these sites, that it could almost be exciting.
And Nikki and I know the potential price that they might pay, and the fact it is just people doing that for money. It's just about making money from children's vulnerability, really, and it's difficult not to be angered by it.
Social media provides a platform of anonymity. What's clear from our investigation is that dealers are exploiting that, offering an online shop window of illegal substances without having to identify who they are. Through that cloak, an account in Hastings brazenly boasted quality goods and services. Discreet delivery is my term was the description of this page in Horsham. Meanwhile, a strapline from a profile in Maidstone said, "Stay high, no snitching, legit stuffs, no faking." Isn't the solution here simply just to shut down these social media accounts?
That would be really simplistic and an ideal scenario. I don't think it's that simple.
In Faversham, I meet youth worker Nick Hickmott.
We'd like to see more people having more open and honest conversations with young people.
He's part of the charity We Are With You, which supports 10 to 24-year-olds who find themselves using drugs.
Young people are without a doubt seeing substances for sale on social media. Broadly speaking, we've let young people down in terms of education around drugs. When we take into account the amount that they are consuming in terms of the information on social media, the memes that are around drugs, but also the streaming services that are available, there'll be literally thousands of titles where young people can watch documentaries, right up to, you know, absolute nonsense around substances as well. And so somewhere in the middle of that, we need to give them some common sense, we need to keep them safe around drugs, and we do need to have more and more education.
Last year, Kent Police recorded 390 offences involving under-18s suspected of trafficking or being in possession of controlled drugs such as cocaine and cannabis. That's slightly down on 2020 and 2019, but an increase on 2018. A 10-year-old child was the youngest suspected offender, with 82 offences recorded on school or college premises. In Sussex, police have broken down 200 drug lines in the last year. Those lines often involve exploited children transporting substances like this from county to county.
What role does technology play in fuelling these lines of drug supply?
20-something years ago, it was payphones we used to find your dealer, and that would be the point of call. Obviously, payphones aren't really used so much now. It's very much mobile phones, and that's where we look at with securing our evidence. But it's also where we may then look to identify who's using, so that they can also then be safeguarded and entered into treatment.
Curing and combating illegal drug use is complex. Our investigation highlights how modern media is feeding into the problem, providing an astonishing level of accessibility through a long line of illicit online accounts.
Well, let's talk to James Dunham for more on this now. James, so drugs on sale, for sale on social media sites. What are the social media companies saying about it and doing about it? Can they shut it down?
Well, Snapchat and Instagram have removed the accounts that we've highlighted in our report. They also say that any form of drug selling or using via social media is strictly against their policies. Instagram encourages people to report any illegal content to the police, while Snapchat says it has technology working behind the scenes to ensure that any content is removed before it's seen by users.
And James, there is a government bill going through at this moment to try to stop content like this being posted. Will it go far enough, do you think?
Yes, it's called the Online Safety Bill. The idea is that social media companies will face fines if they do not proactively remove this content in the first place. But everyone I've spoken to, including Fiona, who you heard there in my piece, makes clear that removing social media content doesn't get away from drugs being out there in society. The only way to really get through to children and stop them coming into harm is education, education, education.
James, thank you. A man has been jailed for 8 years following a number of violent assaults in Maidstone. Hamdi Brake repeatedly stamped on the head of one victim as he lay unconscious in West Street last May. It followed offensive remarks Brake made over how a woman was dressed. Upon arrest, he was linked to 3 further attacks.
The Operation Brock contraflow has been taken off the M20 with the school half-term and Platinum Jubilee break at an end. The concrete barrier remains on the London-bound carriageway for the time being. National Highways say they'll continue to assess the situation.
As the Wealden bin strike enters its 5th week, some rubbish collections took place today. Waste contractor Biffa planned to empty bins in Pevensey Bay, Polegate and part of Hailsham. The walkout over pay could last another 3 weeks after recent talks failed.
Transport for London is advising commuters using the tube to avoid travelling before 8 a.m. tomorrow morning unless necessary because of a strike. The RMT union is in a dispute over pensions, jobs and conditions. Severe disruptions expected across the network with a limited number of tube stations open.
Staying with travel, Gatwick Airport has apologised after more flights were delayed, holidaymakers were stranded abroad and a disabled passenger was left alone on a plane because there were no staff to help her off.
Well, EasyJet has told passengers heading to the airport to bring their own food and water because supplies, they say, can't be guaranteed. Well, Malcolm Shaw is at Gatwick for us this evening. Malcolm, the problems of delays and the shortages of staff go on and on. What's the situation like now?
Well, yes. I mean, last week it was a case of people trying to get out on holiday having real problems, and now it's the reverse. Passengers trying to get home finding their flights are being cancelled. I've been speaking to Jamie Hurst and Chloe Dowsett. They're from Ashford in Kent. They've been enjoying a holiday in Turkey with their children Gracie, who's 8, and 1-year-old Parker. They got to the airport last night only to be told that their flight was cancelled and they may have to wait until next Saturday. Now that's a real problem for them because baby Parker has to have prescription milk and they've run out.
He's just not sleeping either in the hotel because he's hungry. He's waking up every couple of hours.
Yeah, and my little girl thinks we're stuck here forever because we don't always said to her we're not sure when we're going home yet. So she's panicking.
We speak to people in the airport and stuff like that. They've been going through this constantly, it's just cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. And it's just when, if and when you get home.
Well, EasyJet has apologised and offered to reimburse the family for any extra costs, but it's also had to apologise today to a disabled passenger who was left stuck on one of its planes here at Gatwick for over an hour and a half. Victoria Brignall is paralysed from the neck down, but there were no staff to help her, and she says that it's something that happens a lot.
It's really important that the air industry improves the service it gives to disabled people. And the sad thing is that I'm not alone. There have been a number of occasions recently where other disabled people have been stuck on planes. Disabled people deserve a decent level of service.
Well, airlines and airports are struggling to replace staff that they shed during the pandemic, but the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps has ruled out allowing foreign workers in to fill up some of those gaps in the industry. The half term may be over, but the summer holidays are just around the corner, and there's huge pressure on the airlines to get things sorted out.
It's costing them a lot of money, not just because they have to refund people, or they also have to get them, if they wish to go, on another flight, which could be with a rival airline and cost a lot of money, and they also have to compensate people, but because it's affecting consumer confidence going forward. And I know anecdotally many people who are going, oh, I'm not going to travel this summer.
Well, EasyJet had to cancel another 40 flights here at Gatwick today, so I'm afraid tonight there are still a lot of problems for air passengers.
OK, Malcolm Shaw at Gatwick for us this evening. Thank you very much indeed.
Boris Johnson's future as Prime Minister is in the hands of Tory MPs who are tonight deciding whether to back him or sack him.
Well, they started voting a few minutes ago. We'll know the result later tonight.
Over to our political correspondent Phil Hornby at Westminster. Phil, a dramatic day there.
Yes, Sangeeta, and it started early. Nuz Ghani, the MP for Wealdon, was centre stage. She's vice chair of the committee of backbench Tory MPs who are organising tonight's no confidence vote. And the big question is, will Boris Johnson be brought down by booze? No, not the drinks to do with Partygate, but the reception he got at the Jubilee Thanksgiving service the other day. And will that noise from the crowd change some Tory MPs' minds tonight? Some of them are determined to vote against Mr Johnson anyway, even though tonight's vote comes just 2.5 years after a general election victory, which was seen very much as a personal triumph for Mr Johnson.
None of us take this decision lightly. To overturn, in effect, a general election result is a very serious business. But so is knowingly misleading Parliament. If you cannot trust what's said to you at the dispatch box, if you cannot trust the integrity, the honesty, the credibility of Parliament, then we're on a slippery slope.
Other South East Tory MPs, though, are backing the Prime Minister.
Boris Johnson has shown himself to be a Prime Minister that delivers for the country and for the people of Dover and Deal. So he has my confidence. I'll be supporting him. I think he'll win the confidence vote. And then I hope we can move forward as a Conservative Party in Parliament and continue to deliver on what we need to deliver for the British people.
Not surprisingly, Labour want to see the back of the Prime Minister. I spoke to the MP for Hove.
If you are a Tory MP, do the right thing for the southeast of England. The southeast of England faces huge challenges. Just look at what's happening in Dover and those massive lines of lorries getting out. The economy of the southeast, we're doing all right, but we need to be doing much better. We're not going to get that with Boris Johnson. We need a quick end to his premiership, and we need to move to something where we can actually get to the battle of ideas that the southeast of England really needs.
Mr Johnson will probably win tonight's vote. The question is by how many? How big a majority does he need for his position to be secure?
Unless he is almost forcibly removed from Downing Street or told that these are the rules and you have to go, he'll dig in and he will hold on. We've seen that throughout the Partygate affair. So I'd be very surprised, despite I would expect a higher level of votes against Boris Johnson than many expect, if that will be enough for him to go.
We'll get the results about 9 o'clock tonight, and if the Prime Minister does go, one of the bookies' favourites to succeed him is the MP for Tunbridge and Malling, Tom Tugendhat. But as I say, we'll get the result about 9 o'clock tonight.
Phil, thank you, and updates, of course, on our website. You are watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Coming up, the connection between asthma and women. Why are so many likely to be sufferers?
We're going to look back across the long Jubilee weekend, marking the Queen's 70-year reign in unique style.
And remember, you can find more on today's top stories from right across the South East by going to our website, itv.com/Meridian. You can call us on 0808 1010 095. And remember, you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Now, more women than men have died as a result of asthma, 2/3 in fact, being women over the last 5 years. Now, research by Asthma and Lung UK has highlighted a link between female hormones and the condition.
Well, campaigners say that with further research into why women in particular struggle with asthma, more lives could be saved. Amrit Birdie reports.
Hitting the high notes can be tricky when you live with asthma. But the people in this choir don't let that stop them meeting weekly in the hopes of improving their breathing, posture and well-being.
People with asthma particularly get anxious about their breathing, so if we can give somebody relaxation of any sort, and singing is a really good one, then that really helps.
And new research shows it's more important than ever for women with asthma to look after their health. Women are almost twice as likely to die from an asthma attack than men, with researchers spotting a connection between hormonal changes, such as during puberty, menstruation and pregnancy, that could be a potential trigger for worsened asthma symptoms. Lizzie Stevens lives in Dover. She wants more funding for research into the links between hormonal changes and asthma symptoms.
Just hoping that this does become reduced, this gap does become reduced with new treatments and research funding to find these treatments in particular is very important.
Those concerns are being echoed by Asthma and Lung UK, who are campaigning for further research into why asthma can be more fatal for women.
I've been an asthma researcher for 25 years and I've sat in so many lectures I can't tell you with people saying an asthma's worse in women, and I've just thought, oh yeah, so it is. And then you reach a point where you suddenly think, oh yes, it is. But what do we do about that? Because of the fluctuations in your hormone, either before your periods or at pregnancy or during menopause, in some way influence your lung function, your ability to breathe, your wheeziness and the chance of getting an asthma attack. But that's part of the problem, is we don't know why it's happening. It's very difficult to unpick why it's actually happening, and that's what we need to really understand.
Campaigners say more research into this area could not only help to improve the lives of the 3 million women in the UK who live with asthma, but the tens of millions more around the world. Amrit Birdie, ITV News.
Now, it is D-Day today, forever remembered, of course, as the day Allied troops invaded Normandy in a pivotal moment of the Second World War.
Few veterans remain, but to honour the sacrifice they made and those of their fallen comrades, new memorials have been commissioned to remember the Army Air Corps, the Glider Pilot Regiment and the Parachute Regiment.
Tony Green went along to see one being built.
Rod Fender has been a blacksmith for almost 4 decades. From his forge in Wittersham, he can make anything from village signs to weather vanes. But his latest commission is something special. Memorial benches to commemorate the Army Air Corps, the Glider Pilot Regiment and the Parachute Regiment, all celebrating 80th anniversaries this year. This is a job where there's no shortage of inspiration.
To be honest, the more you research and look into what these 90-year-old guys did during World War II, it brings tears to the eyes. We live in a world where we are so closeted and don't even begin to comprehend what they went through to win this war, and they need recognition for that. So I have tried to design our benches to represent as accurately as possible what went on the day, for those particular campaigns.
Was it a bit of a daunting prospect because it's such an important part of the country's history?
It's a huge responsibility.
The first bench is already in place at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire. The idea came from two women, Deborah Higgs and Beverly Cooper. Their fathers, who both served in World War II, were their inspiration.
When you speak to these men who are still here, a lot of them will tell you they were scared stiff. You know, every day they were scared stiff, but they had a job to do and they did it. We're trying to make these type of benches the new memorials, you know, because they can be sat on by anybody from a conflict, whether you're modern day or World War II. Obviously, we haven't got World War I's anymore, but World War II. The men that I enjoy their company with, that I am so privileged to call friends, who I phone most weeks, and I speak to a fair few, they all want to chat. Nobody wants 5 minutes. They all want you to talk to them for an hour. But they want to look at something that they can sit on and just reflect. For the ones who didn't come back, and for them, how lucky they are.
It's not just a work of art. It's not a memorial. It's not something to be looked at. It's something to be sat on. It's something to be enjoyed. It's something to be for these guys to reflect on what went before. And yes, that gets me heavily involved. I like that.
For all 4 benches to be completed, more money is needed. With the war in Ukraine and the cost of living crisis, that's not easy. But Beverly and Rod, like the men they want to honour, won't accept defeat. Tony Green, ITV News, Wittersham.
Now, it's been a Jubilee-filled long weekend with celebrations for the Queen's historic 70-year reign. For many people who joined in with a mixture of fun and pageantry, it'll be the last Jubilee for many decades.
Well, there have been fetes and tea parties, bonfires and parades, and for most, thankfully, the rain held off so that people across the South East had a weekend they'll remember for a long time. Abigail Bracken looks back.
Lighting up the start of a long weekend of celebrations with more than 1,000 Jubilee beacons lit throughout the South East on Thursday. Here at Kingston Hill near Lewes, 400 of the most committed villagers hiked up to the beacon site next to the South Downs Way. And by the coast at Hove, more than 1,000 residents gathered to see a more modern torch lighting, using specially designed LED lights that will now illuminate the seafront each evening.
It's a real honour, it's a real privilege. It sort of started as something, it's just grown into something else. So it's going to be a lasting legacy, very much like the Queen herself.
And throughout the South East, many celebrated with a traditional street party, like here in Folkestone. And in Chartham Hatch, one resident recalls seeing the then Princess Elizabeth in 1952 in Kenya, a visit that was cut short when her father died and Elizabeth became Queen.
We were very proud to see, as I said, we were young and this was the first time in our lifetime that we were witnessing a monarch coming to our country.
The celebrations have been eclectic. In Bexhill, 300 residents joined together to make the Union Jack flag. This song has been created by patients at Eleanor Hospice in Gravesend and will be included in the official Jubilee album. While a care home in East Sussex invited a mobile farm along for their Jubilee tea party. And in Saltdean, the Queen herself came to town, complete with open-top car, diamond tiara and stuffed corgi.
We're very good at partying here in Sussex, so it's been a very good weekend. Quite rightly, after 70 years of extraordinary service to the country, we've seen people up and down the country coming out to celebrate in so many different ways. And I think it is just a sign of the enormous affection in which Her Majesty's held.
Affection that many displayed through a weekend of music, dancing and lots of noise. Abigail Bracken, ITV News.
I've had a fantastic 4 days.
It's just been great to see so many happy people around.
Yeah, it's been like feel good and we've really needed it.
Yeah, really good. Right, let's talk about the weather. Pip is here in the studio. You promised us a mixed weekend and you delivered.
Yeah, well, at least I got one thing right. Yeah, yeah, very much a tale of two halves. Of course, it started on a very promising note, lots of dry and fine weather. And in fact, temperatures peaked on Friday. Parts of the south almost reached 25 Celsius. And then, of course, it went a little bit downhill. The showers arrived, the thunderstorm warnings came and went. And most of us, by the end of Sunday, had some soggy bunting hanging around. But what better way to tell the story than with some lovely viewers' pictures? And we start with this one. This comes from Caroline Poulton, the sun welcoming in the Jubilee weekend over Eastbourne, accompanied by just a smattering of cloud there. Blue skies overhead for Peter Cooper too. This was in Ashford in Kent. That upside down rainbow is actually part of a sun halo. But of course it wasn't set to last the duration. Helen Gasson paid a visit to Bevensey Castle on Saturday as the clouds started to close in, and this ominous snap comes from Peter Norman, a bank of cloud rolling in off the sea in Hastings, and of course eventually the thunderstorms broke out. This was a scene from Dover taken by Brian van der Veen.
But Pip, we are in summer, so things are going to improve now. This is just June having a few little teething problems.
Well, do you know, at the moment, I mean, it's not been the best start to summer. No big areas of high pressure on the way, but when there is, you will be the first to know.
OK, well, let's find out what's happening in the imminent future. Here's Pip.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
So it was certainly a fairly mixed picture over the Jubilee bank holiday weekend, and it stays a little on the changeable side through the course of this week. Some further showers, maybe even longer spells of rain, but warm where we do see the best of the sunshine, although becoming breezy as the week wears on. So what's going on? Well, low pressure actually will be the dominant feature through the course of this week, especially so from Wednesday onwards. A fairly deep area of low pressure runs to the northwest of the UK, and whilst we should hold on to largely dry conditions down here in the south, you'll notice up and down the UK that squeeze in the pressure lines, indicating some breezier conditions to come. But out there at the moment, still one or two lingering daytime showers, these soon fading, and then through the course of the night we'll start to pull in more in the way of cloud from the south and further showers as well. Now these showers could merge at times to give a longer spell of rain, and there could well be one or two heavier bursts in there as well. But with the cloud cover and the arrival of the showers, it will be a mild night. Temperatures for just about all of us staying up in double figures. A bit of a cloudy and a damp start to the day tomorrow then, but I think slow improvements as the day wears on. The thickest cloud moves away eastwards, taking any lingering showers with it. Behind it, some brighter skies coming through, but again, further showers breaking out. Fingers crossed they should be fairly few and far between. For most of us, a drier end to the day and a little bit warmer than it has been. Highs tomorrow of around 21 Celsius. High tides for tomorrow then for Margate there around 10 to 6 in the morning, 10 past 6 in the evening. And then beyond that, well, through the course of Tuesday night and into Wednesday, we'll start to see a front moving our way. That will bring some overnight rain, hopefully clearing most parts by dawn, but showers to follow on. And we keep that mix of sunny spells and showers through much of the rest of the week. Still fairly warm in the sunshine though.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Well, grass pollen season is now really getting going. With mixed fortunes over the next few days, levels will generally be moderate to high. Do take very good care. I'll see you again later. Bye-bye for now.
I keep thinking it's Tuesday because we've had a bank holiday, so I'm in that weird mode.
It's a shame.
So what was your best bit from the weekend?
I do love a fly past, I have to say.
Yeah,
you?
Yeah, I have to say the concert. Big Queen fan.
Good.
Yeah, and obviously
like the both Queens. Yeah.
In just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale, who's in Downing Street.
Have a great evening. We're back later. Bye-bye.